Make sure we're all good here. Make sure everyone can hear. I think we're good. I think no sound. No. I'll fix it. Can you hear me? I can hear sound. I can hear sound. Okay, excellent. All right, listen, welcome everyone. That was a little bit of a mild heart attack. It was telling me that I wasn't able to stream on YouTube today, and I had to restart that. A little bit freaky. Going to start letting people in. Welcome to Hash Church 4.0, episode 8, Legends of Hash sponsorship episode. Pretty stoked to have this episode. Nice to always talk with some new folks. Not that everyone will be new, but definitely a nice new group of folks. What's going on, Agrotech? You guys were on the ball.
Well, we wanted to make sure our connection worked. You know what I mean?
Dude, I just had a heart attack. I went to go stream. There's a bunch of stuff I have to do when I do this because we're streaming through Zoom that ends up going through YouTube. Well, for the first time ever, when I go live on YouTube, it said, "You do not have permission to live stream." That was at 8:59. So I was just like, okay, I've done this a couple hundred times. I'm not going to freak out. But I did text Addison and he was like, what the fuck? So glad to, I'm going to just be letting people in as we go here. Reese Puffs in the background with the pipe to match, little wormhole, little JP wormhole there. What we got going on here? All right, Alex. Oh, beautiful. I love those pipes, dude. Absolutely love them.
This one shreds for sure.
Oh my goodness. Where to start? This is great. Faces that I don't necessarily recognize. I'm stoked to have all of you guys in here. First of all, super stoked that you guys, sponsored Legends of Hash. Got my old Legends of Hash from 2016 in Barcelona t-shirt on right now. This is one of the last Legends that I actually threw in Europe. And so considering we started in 2001, maybe 2001 might have been the first Legends of Hash. We'll talk a little bit about Legends history as we slowly get in here. I love also the fact that everyone's rolling up with rigs all set up and ready to go. Rocking my JP Toro. That's what's up right there. Little terp slurping in the house. Little 8. Oh shit, there we go. I got that right there tattooed on my body. Can't get that off. Maybe you can nowadays. What's going on, Addy?
What's up, buddy?
Dude, I'm just getting getting to know some of the boys here. These Agrotech boys were on the ball like 30 minutes ago. They came in and I was like,
Mike doesn't play.
Early. He doesn't play. He's not missing out.
You know Mike? You know Mike and the boys?
I'm just meeting Mike and the boys right now.
Well respected, very loved and revered in the industry, and definitely one of the guys that hunted us down to make sure that he could sponsor the event. So
that's what's up.
Good dudes, man. They really are all about it, and definitely wanted to make sure that we had everything that we needed to make this thing a fucking banger. So we love those cats for sure.
For us, part of the reason why it was such a big deal to do that was because we're really about trying to give back. We've been pretty blessed to be in business for 15 years, and everything we do comes from the cannabis community. So being able to sponsor an event like this and directly give back to the cannabis community, specifically the hash community, meant a lot to us, and was something that is right up our alley. And we love smoking hash and getting high, so it worked out really good.
That's perfect. Yeah, no, we're grateful, man. I think that it was I think you guys were one of the first ones to reach out to us, and it meant a lot. Made it easier for us to get it started and get everything going. You guys and Mills came forward and just pretty much lined us up so we could get started and get everything going. So we're super grateful. We appreciate it.
Well, and for the few people out there that are like, whoa, what's going on with Legends? Now you got cameras and you're having sponsors. When Addison hit me up a couple of years ago and said, hey, I think we should do Legends, in California. I think, Kevin and I can pull it off. And, one of the first things he said to me was, And I'm not sure how you've been doing this out of pocket, man, but we're not going to be able to do that. I'm not sure how you've just been paying for Legends out of pocket, because that's how I rolled with Legends for, the first almost 20 years. There was no monetization. There was no sponsorships. I paid for everything out of my own pocket, and, just kind of tried to make it go that way. And it was, it got expensive fast. So I am definitely very thankful to all of the sponsors, and also to, the team at 800, that we're also not just willing to, we're not just willing to take anyone's money for sponsorship. Like, it's almost like the same way, you're curating the products that you use on a daily basis. Well, you don't want to be curating products that you don't use on a daily basis and bring. So there were people we said no to. There was a substantial amount of people that we said no to. So, you've been curated. When you get accepted to this sponsorship, it's not just by giving money. It means that you have the whole background, the coolness factor, the factor that you have integrity, the factor that, that you've been curated by Legends of Hash. And there's something to be said by that as well, because, I just chose to have zero sponsors for like 20 years, because I thought, the same way with Hash Church, this is the first time I've ever had a kind of episode like this where, I've never monetized Hash Church. I've never taken any sponsorship money. I've never taken anything for Hash Church, because I was worried that if I did that, it would affect the integrity of Hash Church. And, for me, I was so stuck in Hash Church, not really realizing what it meant to the community. But after listening to the community and realizing, like, this is really important, this is a conversation that drives our industry and our community. It's very important that we don't bastardize or fuck this up. So it's been a bit of a nerve wracker, having the monetization aspect for Legends. And I told both Kevin and Addison, like, all right, let's try it out, but whatever you do, don't fuck it up, because this is a long time thing going. Like, I sometimes can't even believe that Legends has been happening for 20 plus years, but indeed it has. It's happened in Amsterdam, like 14 plus times. It's happened in Barcelona a few times. It's happened in Vancouver a few times. It's happened in Jamaica once. And now we're going to be doing the second one in Los Angeles. So it's a special thing to be a part of. And I'm just very welcoming to all of you and stoked that you're here. And we only have a couple of hours today, but I want to hear from each and every one of you. I want to hear kind of your backgrounds and where you came to this, and why Legends is something that you wanted to be a part of, maybe hopefully a little bit differently than any other event that's happening. And just, puff some bowls with you guys and enjoy the afternoon. We got a couple of hours to get high here.
Well, we're happy to be here, and we're humbled to be here. So, thank you for allowing us to be here and participate. I'm sure I speak for a lot of the other sponsors and people involved when I say that it's a good circle to be in, and it's a good group of people to support. All the makers and people that have been invited are all very high level. So again, for us, it's really easy event to give back to and participate with.
Oh yeah. What's up, JP?
Well said.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. Good to see you.
You too.
JP's 3 hours ahead of us. He's mad ripped already.
He's been ripping since 9 a.m. on his side.
Five.
I'm gonna go to 5. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna go for 5. Start at 5.
Yeah. Huge pleasure to have you, JP. All you guys, especially. But JP, I think it's I love the idea and the whole story behind how the Slurper came to life, and how Marcus has something to do with it. And I kind of feel like now it's sort of full circle and just kind of brings everybody closer together. And I don't know if everyone knows that story, but JP, you could tell it. Marcus, you could tell it. I think it's an interesting story that's kind of, when it comes to dabbing, when it comes to solventless, especially, I think the Slurpers kind of added this whole different component. You could take a guy who could dab super hard on a 30 mil banger and rip the fuck out of that thing. And then you put a Slurper in front of him and it's a totally different hit. You need a different set of lungs to rip that thing, and you get a different flavor, different taste. You can fuck with the temp. You need a temperature gauge. You need all these different things to do it. You need some pearls. You need a fucking assistant, an ISO dip. You need all these different things. But the development of the slurper, I think, has changed the fucking game so heavily. And it's, we wouldn't have it if it weren't for you and Marcus inspiring. And so, yeah, it's a huge pleasure to have you with us, and really makes me kind of a little fanish to kind of have you here. But at the same time, I think you deserve it. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all that. That's a hell of an introduction. Thank you.
It's a lot to follow up with.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm just glad to be here, man. Just glad to be a part of it all, and I think, if it wasn't for you guys all out there, doing your thing and making some really good, hash and showing other people how to do it, you know what I mean? And like the pioneering of it all, 20 something years. It's probably longer than that, but cheers. I don't even have to.
Yeah. Thank you, man. No,
dude, I didn't even know I had anything to do with this. He sent me one day and was like, "Oh, by the way, here's an article I was interviewed in the Northeast magazine, and yeah, I telling the story about your part in the Terp Slurper, and I was like, my part in the Terp Slurper? What the fuck what did I do?" And then he told me this story, and I was like, "Oh, well, fuck, awesome."
Yeah, feel free to tell the story. It's like folklore here. So many people, really, you inspire a lot of people, a lot of my homies, and they check you out. And, they're always like, "Yo, did you see that episode about, or did you see how he's like burping terps? Did you see how they're doing all this stuff and trying to and I was like, "Oh, no." And then it was like a thing where, we were just I was just trying to make a nail that you could just burp terps with, but not for dabbing, almost just for flavor. And then all of a sudden it turned into, oh, let's actually make it percolate. Let's actually make it so that it percolates. And then, I don't know, 6-7 designs later, here we are, the different tweaks of it all. And then, the fog, because you have to test it and then you got to go and make another one. And then it's just before you know it, you're really, really, really high, but you're still working with hydrogen and gas and working on a lathe, and you burn yourself and you get injured, and because you're just
it's how you're still alive.
Really, that's just it's just talk about working while super, messed up. It's, now I can just, now I can do it. It's no problem. I'm so used to testing out prototypes and just going and back to the torch. And I think a lot of us glassblowers do that. I think that's our thing. You know what I mean? At least in my world anyway. But
it's good to know that you were sacrificing terps to create the slurper. It was like a sacrifice, like throwing a virgin into a fucking volcano or something.
Well, it was so long ago that, things sometimes take a little time to pick up and to get out there and but at the same time, there's technology that also helps other things also blossom, so to speak. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for the Dabrite, the Temtech, all those devices that people are using to figure out their flavor zone, their heat temp, I think that really helps. And I think that, before that, we were just timing it out, and sometimes, certain courses hit differently with different, it's a game, you know what I mean? You got to figure it out. And then it's oh, well, how do we clean it? And then it's oh, we can dunk tank it, and I think all these things happen, and then it makes a product not seem so intimidating or so hard to, because the turp slurper took off in Hawaii, and I mean, it happened in the States, and I think that like I had some fan base in the States, people that weren't afraid to like go outside the box a little bit and try something new, but in Hawaii, I mean, such a huge fan base in Hawaii. And I guess there was like a couple that were like floating around the island that actually spun the terps or spun the pearl when it was in there. And at the time, people were just like throwing like logs of like, shatter in there. And it was like spinning and slowly evaporating as it was spinning. And then before you knew it, some of these islanders reached out and were like, yo, did you know that some of these nails, some of these, spin? And we were just like, nah. And so then we started like developing more about that and almost kind of like getting the vortex or the spinning motion, because anything that spins is a longer distance than straight. So that was that. And next thing you know, here we are. I don't want to take up too much time here.
Dude, people are loving this conversation. Trust me. It's,
what do you think
go ahead, Addy.
Oh, go ahead. What do you think it was? Like, where you said that those guys were running around the island kind of pushing it. What was that turning point that you think that sort of blew it the fuck up to where it is now? Was it some sort of development in the pipe, or was it just the pearls coming in? What kind of blew it up? Because now it's like, to give you the credit, everyone and their mom is putting out a slurper or a slurper type column thing. What do you think that was?
I don't know. I mean, this industry is like just so like ancestral, and we're all just like feeding off each other. Really, it's like, yeah, the terp slurper is great, but it wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the dab right or dab tech. It wouldn't be there if it wasn't for people like actually like, oh, we're actually going to start soaking now. Like, or dunk tanking, or there's so many different terminologies that people have, but you get what I'm saying. And I think that when you can like look outside the thing, because back in the day it was like, oh, let's just Q-tip it out and keep going, you know what I mean? That was like, oh, wait a minute, if you put fingerprints on it, that's going to burn into the quartz too. Oh, okay, so now we're taking care of it inside and out, you know what I mean? Okay, now we're having some interesting designs, some interesting airflow. It's a little bit unique. There's an inside and outside that's all weird, that has to be clean. So now what is it? You just dunk it in a tank. Sometimes you have 3 tanks, one for dirty, one, like kind of like camp back in the day when there wasn't a lot of water, you know what I mean? And you had like 3 or 4 tubs. One had soap, and then you just rinse one and you just kept on going. And then at the end, that was clean. I'm not saying that's COVID clean now or any kind of like, whatever, but back in my day, that was camp. So I have a little dunk tank system like that. I also mess around with ultrasonic cleaners just to figure out different ways how to keep the quartz and the product itself clean. And
does anyone make like a mini ultrasonic cleaner yet? Because that's the best way to clean. Ultrasonic cleaning, when we were not a lot of people know, but we used to make we still make e-nails, but we used to like really be heavy in the e-nail space. And ultrasonic cleaning is the best for titanium or any type of surface, really. So does anyone have like a little like ultrasonic bath kit yet?
That's all I use. I've been doing that for like the last 4 weeks now, 5 weeks. I mean, I've been using it with my actual glass work for years.
Right.
And then I just recently switched over to doing it this way, especially the ones that actually have a heating source on them as well, so that you're also getting a little, I mean, you do get a little evaporation, right, or a little quicker, but I think it, I feel like when you pull it out, it kind of dries quicker because it's a little hot, a little warm. My test is more to see the longevity of the nail, to see how long I can keep it from clouding up or chazzing or, doing all the things that sometimes quartz gets to a certain point with if you're like neglected with it. but I keep having people coming in here and say, like, to mention that, another thing with the slurper is flavor. That was one of our biggest things. And I think that's where Bubble Man came in, was trying to capture that flavor, that like the actual flavor of that's coming off of the hash, you know what I'm saying? And that's like where, burp and terps, slurping, any kind of thing like that, like sipping wine, the way you get the terps is by all that aeration and all that sipping. That's how you get, it's like the best way to get flavor. And I think that's where that, and between getting it to spin and everyone coming up with these really cool units to figure out heat zones and cleaning and all these like dunk tanks and all this stuff. I mean, and the Q-tips and everything. It's just been all just like one thing led to another to get to this point, really.
I'll tell you, the flavor aspect ties into anyone that's ever hit one of these terp slurpers, especially the first time you hit it. It's like you're getting high for the first time, especially if you're ahead and you're hardcore. You're not hitting something through your first terp slurper that you've never hit before. You're pulling out one of your favorites that you've hit like 10,000 times through 10,000 different ways at 10,000 different temperatures. And now you're hitting the terp slurper with the pearls and you got your temperature gauge. And it was like, you get high for the first time and then you spend the rest of your life sort of chasing that dragon. Well, that caught the dragon. That was the dragon catcher, that terp slurper. It was like, boop, blew that out and was like, literally like it was grade 8 again. And I was borderline on the brink of being more high than I wanted to be, which I have to admit nowadays is exactly where I want to be. That was I will never forget that. I mean, I've never gotten high like that off of it again, but I also just like got those pearls spinning and created a crazy suction. And it's, to me, it's all about the preservation of the volatile organic compounds, getting them from your product into your lungs as preserved as possible. So the more of these buffers that you put in, like not letting it sit in one corner of a banger versus painting the entire tube of the terp slurper like a rising film evaporator. This is on a completely different level. And you definitely are a massive influence in this whole aspect. And I gotta give a shout out. And I don't even know if you guys get along or if he's like a mortal enemy or whatnot, but I do got to give a shout out to Brian from D-Nail as well, because he's also really just geeked out on focusing on these shapes and the way the surface area preserves and releases heat. And so been doing quartz and been doing silicon carbide and been doing sapphire and all these different surfaces, which I find subtle nuances for certain, but nothing like the difference between hitting out of a banger and then hitting out of a terp slurper. And dude, thank you so much for this, because it's changed the way I puffed for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. And so now that Jameson's here, let's talk about the cleanliness of our banger basket. The cleanliness of our banger basket. I've never seen a darker yellow solvent than when I'm puffing with Jameson. This motherfucker puffs the biggest dabs, like just the most outrageously huge dabs. You don't even have to be puffing when he's dabbing in front of you. You are puffing more than you would be puffing if you were inhaling your dabs directly into your lungs. So shout out to the fucking banyan tree in the house here with show us your yellow fucking solventy banger basket. I know it's fucking
you could dab this ISO.
Dude, here's the OCD guys.
Yo, thanks so much for having me, Mark. What's up, everybody?
Fuck, it's time to do some dabs, I'm guessing here. And shout out to fucking Alex with the Method 7 hat on. That is a fucking really great company. I don't know if you guys know too much about Method 7, but James is like a surreal character, really interesting fellow. have to have him on one day and tell his crazy Paul Newman watch story, because it's fucking super out there. If you've never heard that story, it is out there. And just shout out to Method 7. I'm an ambassador for that company, and I think they're doing good things. I like the idea of people coming up with ways to preserve our bodies, in this, no one thinking that being under those high pressure sodium lights for all those years was going to affect their eyes. But yeah, it does. Get those shades on you and avoid the headache.
True human optimization. Like, it allows you to view something without, you didn't have the ability before, but you can do your work better, and it's more healthy for you too. Intake of light is really important stuff. So,
well, I'll tell you, and I'll lead that right into photography, which is what photography is, the intake and manipulation of light. So when I'm in a grow room and I'm taking pictures with my phone and it's just orange, I don't even want to post those pictures. They just look terrible. But to have shades that you can pull off your head, I mean, I've got the little clips now, that Olo clips or whatever, that go over my phone. But to be able to take the shades off and take a picture through the blue lens and just turn, actually, I was wearing my blue lenses yesterday. I was in the forest up north here in Squamish, and I was picking mushrooms, edible mushrooms. And it was literally helping me see the forest floor better, because it was so dark in there, and the blue shades just like lighten everything up. So yeah, I'm definitely, I'm a fan. Where are you from, Alex? Hashtag.
Yeah. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
Hey, Marcus. Thanks a lot for having me on here. I'm humbled to be hanging out with all you guys here. And now this is going to be an awesome Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, welcome. Yeah. So Alex makes a stainless steel hash maker called the Hashtag, and they have a bunch of different sizes. I'm sure he could tell us about it in a little bit here for sure. And yeah, I mean, the world needs more hash. So the more hash, the merrier. Needs more companies sort of pushing these boundaries. You get a pioneer like JP, who sort of pioneers a concept, but then you get all these other people who come along, and they want to fit in there somehow, and so they start playing around and changing, and so it's like we stand on the shoulders of giants when we're not insecure and worried that people doing similar things than what we're doing is taking away from our pie. Last I heard, John made enough for everyone. Whose music is on?
Someone playing fucking theme music or what?
Yeah. No, it was Alex. That was awesome. It was while we were talking about him too.
That was amazing.
That was amazing.
I thought that was you, Mark. I thought you were setting a tone.
Dude, that wasn't on purpose. My bad. The ladies are watching a movie here. That's my bad.
That good. But the timing was so good, dude.
I was waiting for the climax.
It's like perfect theme music. Somebody playing theme music?
That was so good.
Oh my God, dude. That is awesome.
I have a question about Legends, about the first Legends. How did that happen? Like, how did that materialize? Was that something that you sat down and consciously created, or did it happen more or less organically to a point where you saw it happen and you were like, we need to continue this?
Well, like everything that's awesome in our community, it was created by Skunk Man Sam. I was a part of it. We were having that conversation. I couldn't say, listen, first of all, this guy's hash, when he was like, okay, who the fuck lived in all the hash producing countries, collected all the cultivars, brought them back to his greenhouse with federal licensing, and bred genetics for 15 years straight? Who is puffing weed and saying that is how they got the weed? Like, that is just like, what the fuck? So that's the start. And so the first time I ever went over to his place, and I remember Rob Clark kind of be like, oh, I could barely walk home from Sam's last night. I was so fucking stoned. And I would kind of be like, well, really, man? Like, come on. Like, I can drive on 4 grams of mushrooms. Like, how stoned could you have possibly been? I was kind of young bucking it, being all fucking confident and cocky. And he was like, whatever, dude, whatever. And I ended up getting invited over there one time finally. And he pulled out this skunk #1 full melt dry sift that he's cleaned up to perfection. And it was, I'd never seen hash melt like that, not even 6-star. Like, this was like another level. It was just like right through the screen. And he's just like also puffing like I'd say he puffed about 150 bowls in the 3 hours that I hung out there for. When I smoked this hash, it was like someone strapped me to a rocket and I took off. And I was so anxietous. I thought I was gonna shit myself, throw up, piss myself, pass out unconscious, all the big four fears that you would have if you got like I'd gotten people high like that before, but no one had ever gotten me high like that before. I was humbled. And that was the first rip. He gave me like, I want to say 20 or 30 more. When I left his house that night, the whole right side of my body wasn't working. And I was walking and I was kind of lifting my right leg and then walking normal with my left leg. And I'm being very serious. I'm not exaggerating in any way, shape, or form. I was destroyed. And I finally understood what Rob was saying. Like, oh yeah, I got really, really high at Sam's. Really high at Sam's could mean that he gave you a goo ball with 1 gram of his dry sift in the goo ball. Like he'd eat 2 of those and go walk around for Queen's Day in Amsterdam. And it was just like, dude, like 2 of those would knock any normal human being out for about 48 hours. It's a lot. And so that was the basis for the conversation. And I've talked a little bit about this before when, alcohol went into bars and you had your laborers going and drinking, and those conversations they had really sort of shaped the future. And that turned into tea houses, where now there were more intellectual people getting together, not so much laborers. And they started having conversations that started shaping the world. And then coffee came in, and coffee was all about productivity and efficiency. And those conversations shaped the world and made us much more productive and much more efficient. And the conversation that they're the most scared for us to have, which is why in all of these states and countries where there's legal cannabis, there's very few places to actually smoke it, like actual lounges, because once we get that, and that's what Hash Church is, and everyone's like, oh, Hash Church is amazing. It's like, really, Hash Church is just a place where you let people who use cannabis have conversation and direct their communities with that conversation. And we will have that when we eventually can have these gatherings. And so that's the basis and the foundation. And I think I might have started it by saying to Sam, the Cannabis Cup has there were a lot of people back then as well that were just pissed off at High Times and upset with High Times. And I was always kind of like, listen, like, I think your expectations are too high. The fact that they're making this happen and we can come here and we can all meet up and filter out the people you don't want to know, but meet these amazing people that were like, otherwise were hiding from the police in every state and country that they lived in. And now they were just outing themselves at the Cannabis Cup with video cameras. And it was absolutely mental. But there was a lot of people that I was like, a lot of people just smoking cigarettes and just kind of being like, I wish I could run all these heads through my bags and just collect the 90 micron heads. And that will be this gathering that we would have. And that was what the conversation started with me and Sam. He was probably 60 dabs in, and I was probably 15 or 20 dabs in, absolutely destroyed. And now we're like, if we could just run everyone through the High Times Cup through our bags, man, and catch them all in the 90, like just bakery talk. But it turned into Legends of Hash. It turned into, keep in mind, those guys at the time too were very removed from the community and the scene. Like they were a part of it, but they were also like, they knew the only way they could get what they were wanting to do done would be if they isolated themselves. And a lot of people that were on the other side of things.
Those guys meaning Sam and yourself?
Hortifarm. That would be Rob Clark, David Pate, Michael Rich, Skunkman Sam, and a group. David Pate was the chemist who did all the chemistry work. But they were doing things that we started doing in like the late 2000s, like in the 2010s and the 2015s. They were doing it in like the 80s, and so and doing it right. And so because of that, they were always, there was always, those guys are like. They're the DEA, they're the CIA. There were all these rumors that Sam was a DEA agent and then a CIA agent. When I first went in 95, I remember someone pointing him out across the street and saying, that guy's a CIA agent. And, I was like, oh my God, like, whoa, crazy. And then as I got to know him and invited into his circle, he's a very private man. And meeting his wife of like, I don't know, 35 or 40 years or something, maybe 50, maybe they've been together for 50 years now, very long time, seeing all the old photos. hearing all the old stories and seeing how Sam Selejny was the name that he originally picked. Well, that was because he, back in the 60s, when he was a big acid head and a big tripper, they all called him Jingles. And Jingles backwards is Selejny. So to think that all these other people were like, he's a CIA agent, but then to go to his house and hear him and his wife chuckling about it, like, they're just like, oh my God, like, and being able to meet and become friends with his wife, and hearing the stories from her perspective, she's such a sweet and honest and really wonderful woman. There's no fibbery, there's no lies, and there's still these stories going around to this day that this guy is in the DEA, because what did he do? He did what no one else in Amsterdam could do. He got a license to have and grow cannabis, and then he had a DEA export license, so he could send it to different labs in different countries for them to do the redundancy work, to test against the work that they were doing in their lab. Because back in the day, the standards for THC and cannabinoids were super sketched out and they weren't well done. And he had to create his own standards, if you can imagine. So basically that was the conversation that started Hash Church. And they were very removed, and he was kind of like, well, do you think you could sell 50 tickets? Like, and here I am going, dude, I don't think you realize what the community really like thinks of you and Rob and the work that you've done. Like, you guys are fucking rock stars. And so it was kind of up to me, by him allowing me in and to kind of come under and be mentored by him. He also gave me permission in that sense to shine a light on him and Rob and the marijuana botany and the hashish and all these. I was just like, these guys have done it all. And so they weren't sure that we could sell the tickets, but they did have a restaurant, a good friend of both of Rob's and Sam's, by the name of Simone, good friend of all of ours now. And he owned a restaurant called The Artiste in Amsterdam. It was a Lebanese restaurant. And I remember being there before Legends. And we would go there, and Sam would bring his bong, and we would basically puff bowls in this guy's restaurant. And people there'd be Dutch people in the restaurant kind of getting mad about it. And he would kick them out. He'd be like, look, if you don't like it, get the fuck out, which was just like amazing to us. We were just like, listen, if we ever do throw a party, it has to be at Simone's restaurant. So Simone's restaurant was small and the ceiling was low, and it got very smoky very fast. But that is part of the reason why we always threw the party at Simone's, threw that money and that business his way, because he was so righteous, and he was a non-puffer that stood behind puffers in a way that very few non-puffers ever have. Putting his license on the line, putting his whole restaurant like, yeah, you can smoke bong rips after your meal. Come on. So we ended up, creating the first laminates. We rented the restaurant out, and I basically went out and basically sold Legends of Hash tickets to anyone that would show me a beautiful piece of hash. I figured, you know what, this isn't about status. This isn't about who you are in the industry. This isn't about going and promising DNA 12 tickets and then going and giving Soma his 16 for his entourage. It was about bringing in people who loved hashish, regardless of who they were. So the only real prejudice was that you had to show me a beautiful piece of hash. And it was interesting back in the day, because people were like, oh, how much do I give you? And I was like, you don't give me any. I thought like, fuck, of course I wanted the hash. I would have loved to have been like, oh, you give me 10 grams and then you can come to Legends. So right from the get-go, there was this temptation to bastardize the integrity of the whole thing right from the start, which I refuse to do. I'm like, plus I'm not hurting for hash. Like, I've got lots. So I would smell the hash. I wouldn't even often dab it, but if I looked at it and smelled it and felt it, I was like, you know what, that will gain you entry to buy a ticket. So then you ended up with these, there was always one or two that snuck in and got in when they really shouldn't have got in. And those people turned white very early on, left the building. They were out of there within an hour. This is hashish abuse to the greatest level. I mean, this is where you take people like Jameson, who like, oh yeah, I abuse hash every day. It's like, oh yeah, well, you'll be higher than you've ever fucking been after Legends of Hash. I promise you. That's just the facts. It's the highest I've ever been in my entire life. And that's kind of the basis of what I set up Legends for. Sam turned it into a contest, and that's awesome. I think that's why it survived. There's this sort of got to be this level of self-preservation and self-promotion. There has to be, for people to really get into it. even though I will say for a long time, Legends was just this elusive event. We didn't try to make it a hard to get ticket. The hash heads just grew. In the early days, there were less of them. And of course, there was no cameras allowed because some of the people at the first Legends were very, 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 very hardcore people doing the good work of getting the hash out all over Europe and North America. And that was very illegal work back then, dealing with cartels basically to buy this hash in certain countries and then trying to move it around. All around, these guys were like, this was one of the first times they got to have a party and enjoy hash because they had to be invisible in the real world. And so to have like 3 or 4 of those guys at the first Legends, I mean, the Nose from Amsterdam, if any of you have been to Amsterdam, you got to know the Nose. The Nose knows. It's Steve Hayes. He was out front at one point, pale white, big hashish guy in Amsterdam. And he was pale. And I was like, wow, did you smoke too much? He's like, no, man, I looked around the room and realized who was in there. And so he was only one of the only people who really understood who was at the first Legends of Hashish. And that came through one of our friends who's since passed away. He just happened to know all these different guys because I guess he was, kind of involved in those things for a very long time. So for me, there's no shame in that. Like I wanted Legends to pay homage to that the same way I wanted to pay homage to the Terp Slurpers and the Temp Techs and the Terp Timers and all of these new things that we've done. I also wanted to always hold a root or an anchor in the foundation of Legends, and even going way far back before these guys were smuggling hash around the world, but going even hundreds of years further to the Sufis and to these different Afghani gardens and, these storylines of different people that have been promoting and using hashish for all of these centuries. I also wanted to stay rooted in that and pay homage to that. So when you become part of the Legends of Hashish, it's really where old meets new. And you want to not necessarily in the cannabis industry, it's always division, right? And maybe that's just in life in general. It's always like, oh, I only smoke BHO. I only smoke full melt bubble. And there's just every little piece is divided and divisive. And at Legends, you could be like, yeah, I smoke my dabs, but I'm going to go hit that 110-year-old bubbly that Sam's dumping 1.5 grams of his 60% gland heads into. So it was pretty special, the first one and everyone since then. And I have zero doubts that Los Angeles will not be beyond anything that we've ever done because there's a team. There's Addison and Kevin and a whole team of people doing what I just couldn't do on my own. And you guys, the sponsors, are a part of that team. So I'm very glad to be sharing bowls with you here on a Sunday morning on the West Coast.
100%. Was it the first Legends that Sam turned it into a competition, or did that happen after?
I think it happened pretty much right there, and it was brilliant from Sam's perspective. It was kind of like, look, I earned this. And, people, and I think part of the first Legends, no doubt, part of the first many Legends was just being in a room with Sam. He was that elusive to be able to just be in a room with Sam and then see him as like a excited small child on Christmas morning. Like Sam was a very serious guy, very much like that sort of like beyond serious professor that just knows everything, that you can't ever get it right because he's already done it all. And, the way he used to call people out and the way it was hard. It was hard being under his wing those first years. But as Legends progressed and as he started having fun and just really doing what he loved, and trust me, this guy loves puffing. Like the fact that people would call him a DEA agent or a CIA agent, when really, truly, he was the biggest cannabis warrior I've never met a guy that is more excited about cannabis and more importantly, less excited about who makes the profit off of it. He never cared from the day that I met him. He's like, I just want it to be legal and available to everyone. Everyone else can fight about who gets to make the money. So when you know that about Sam, and that's not something he posted a lot online, but when you know that about him, you know that it would make no sense for him to go around and rat people out when he's truly, I don't know anyone that loves cannabis more than this guy. And he doesn't love it in a way that's going to just pay him. He's really like in the truest form. I mean, he's done a lot for our community. A lot of us are, dabbing on these full mounts thanks to some of the work that guy did. So I won't go on forever about Sam, but he's a big part of Legends of Hashish. He's one of the founders, and he's just done.
Abs for Sam.
It all. Abs to Sam,
Yeah,
dude.
for sure. Hey, I wanted to welcome Sam with Show and Rosin Tech and Dab Nation and Carta and Focus and all the stuff. And Sam and Drew's there with him as well. Wanted to welcome those guys at Focus V is their label there, but definitely wouldn't be able to put a lot of the stuff we did for the gift bags and a lot of the judges kits and stuff without those guys' help as well as the support. So wanted to say what's up. Thank you guys. How you been?
What up, guys? What's up, Marcus?
Welcome, man. Welcome. It's a good morning. Getting baked with
Drew.
some friends.
Yeah.
What up, Drew?
What's up, Kev?
Boys, and I had to go and take a dab with the saber and the Carta too. I had to show the people what was up, man.
Let's go.
That thing's awesome. We love the saber, man.
I told Addison to send me a Carta because T Beazle doesn't he drives like a maniac and he doesn't stop. So unless you have a rig to smoke in the car, you're waiting.
Dude, they fit in a cup holder perfectly.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to having one for this trip.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of using a device like this that's designed by a company that actually makes solventless hash. So that's very
and actually
very
uses
grateful
the
for you
product.
guys. Yeah, exactly. No,
That's
it's a
the
little
key.
different, No, it's definitely very, very pleased to have you and blessed to have you guys.
As Drew rips a slurper.
But you know what I love about you guys is that you're not against that. You understand that the Carta is a tool that's used, within our day and in between, transitionally between things. And it's not like, you're all against, using a slurper or using anything else. It's like you guys are about the hash.
Honestly, I use a lot of glass in my day-to-day, honestly. Yeah. I get all different style quartz to check out all the ways that you can taste the terpenes, the dab sizes. So it's
I'll smoke a hot knife right now. I just like getting high.
Exactly. I'm not.
I can tell you're telling the truth because I see that titanium nail.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Hey,
Rage.
we're old
Rage
school,
it.
You got a mini nail?
Yeah, it's an e-nail. We used to, we still make them. We make e-nails. So yeah, titanium since day one, man. Fuck.
It's always ready. It's always on.
I hear a lot about temperature regulation and stuff. And one of the things that, my thought process always was with the nail, and I'm interested to ask some of you guys that are at the very top end of this is, the way this e-nail works is it's constantly taking the temperature of, the nail, and then it's constantly modulating how much power it's giving it. So when the temperature drops, the power goes up. So right now it's staying at a perfect 500. And even as the air conditioning and stuff kicks on, I can see it dropping and changing, and it changes how much power. So when I'm drawing on it, when I'm, ripping it, it throttles up the power and stuff. So it really keeps it a consistent temperature the whole way through. And I see him with the banger, as soon as he starts drawing on it, it's changing the temperature, from the start of the dab to the end of the dab. So
it's pretty significant. When you start pulling, the air cools it down pretty quickly.
Right.
The dab cools it down pretty quickly too, before you even pull. You drop that dab on there and you're cooling things down substantially.
Right.
And every compound releases and holds heat differently. So, the quartz ability for thermal shock is very unique. Sapphire, not so much. There's, you dip hot sapphire into any liquid, or even use like a Q-tip with ISO, and you can crack the sapphire. It's super delicate, but the way it releases heat is just a little more preservative than quartz. Not quite enough to warranty paying like $600 for a sapphire thing that's going to break almost every time you try to clean it. But I do find it very interesting that there's a whole science. You could get a PhD on this, of just how different substances release and retain heat, and how that either preserves or destroys. And I'll say volatile organic compounds, because we're not just talking about terpenes. Some of the flavor profiles that we love the most are thiols, and they're very, very small percentages, but they really do, throw the smell and flavor profile to a great angle with a very, very, very small amount. And I think that they have such small amounts, we don't give them as much credit as where credit is due. But I mean, skunk, for instance, is definitely a combination of 2 or 3 thiols, and butane thiol 1, I believe, is one of them. So let's not forget our thiols when we're talking about our volatile organic compounds.
Very good point. I don't know if anyone else is trying to do this, but I've been trying to keep up with JP. It is not fucking easy. He's still ahead of me, but I've been like trying to because coming into this, I was like, all right, I'm going to pick somebody, and I'm just going to, that's how I'll take my dabs.
And that's who you pick?
JP. I picked fucking JP, and for Christ's sake, I'm 2 behind. Hey, I got a funny story. Me and Kevin went to dinner with Deppy, and we went over to What's Up Mikey's house, and we were all there. I think it was Jay from Professor Sift. A bunch of us all go to dinner, and we get there, and Mikey's got the table just laid out like an M on the table, just splashed out with every, the illest of the craziest shit. And we all start dabbing, and I didn't notice it till later. Kevin noticed it, but Deppy was hitting every single rig, and he went through while we were there and dabbed every single rig, and then started going back through the rigs. He did the gauntlet all the way through and was coming back.
It was 11 rigs. He did 11, and then he went 2 more.
Yeah.
Deppy,
on repeat.
The first time I met Deppy was at Mothership 2 years ago, and Addison took me there, and Deppy ran the hash competition at the end of the night, late. Like, we started late. We did 52 dabs. He served them all. He cleaned every banger. He heated every banger. And then when we finished, he started up a ping pong tournament that went for no less than 3 hours. Like, with all the people that were watching that weren't dabbing, while the rest of the dabbers were just like sitting at that table recovering, he was literally playing ping pong within a minute of finishing the comp and announcing the winners. So, like, dude he's a wizard. He's the wizard.
He's a wizard.
We had a video game system that had Street Fighter 2, and he played as Chun-Li and wrecked every person in the room.
Beat the shit out of all of us.
Ran the gauntlet on wrecking us all in Chun-Li, and then went back, and then I wound up beating him the second time by like a hair. It was so funny.
It was insane.
That's some Skunkman Sam shit right there. For real.
Oh yeah.
Legendary.
Some of the legends were like 30 to 40 entries, and we'd have to smoke them all in a couple of hours, and this one in Barcelona, which was at Certified, when Flux was a part of it, Flux kind of got us in there, and we were in this crazy back room that looked like Cambodia. There was holes in the floor, and the walls were all gnarly, and it was just like, I'll never forget that group of people. Flux was at the table, and Rick DeLisi was at the table. Flav was at the table, and we just went through. Ramon was at the table. Just went through like 40 plus entries, smoking one dab after another. That is a gauntlet of gauntlets. I used to love.
What was
gauntlets.
the tech at the time? What was like the tech at the time? What was it? A titanium nail, or how?
No. This was 2016, so we were definitely hitting out of quartz.
Yep,
we were definitely hitting out of quartz. Yeah, there was no titanium nails on that table.
Do people really hate on titanium nails? Like, am I really jamming up the program?
Dude, people, no. Listen, this, yes
people
and
still
no.
drive the loading.
Yes and no. The problem is Instagram has created an enormous amount of fuck boys. And so, the fuck boy thing is, Yeah, you know.
Oh, hold on. You're talking about using all these different surfaces to keep the same temperature. I'm watching this thing when it's ambient right now, it's 500 degrees. When I'm ripping it like full bore, it only drops to 480. That's
right, but that's just the temperature. If you did the same thing out of a quartz banger side by side, you'd notice the preservation of the volatile organic compounds would be different. When it hits the titanium, even at that low temperature, it's not the same as when it hits quartz. And that has nothing to do with the temperature as much as the component that you're hitting off of. They all are different. Titanium generally is looked at as kind of one of the first ones that, you know, branded many of us. Many of us wear our titanium brands for life on our arms and on our wherevers. But then people, you know, like, oh, and it's kind of like this, you know, it's real, but it's also like built up. Like people that don't even know will watch this and suddenly be like, oh yeah, man, I would never hit off a titanium nail. I would hit off a titanium nail if I didn't have a quartz nail. If I didn't have a quartz or a titanium nail, I'd hit off a pen or I'd hit off.
Quartz is about how the hash moves. The hash moves differently on quartz in a way that it can't move on titanium because titanium slows it down. Where if you allow it to move, it can hit more surface area and vaporize more quickly, more evenly. So quartz has that quality that allows it to move more quickly and dance around that shit. And then, you know, the cap is adding spin and everything else to push it in different directions. And we're trying to make it move. We're trying to vaporize as much as we can and get a good hit and keep temp, because temp is good, is an important part. And you can add pearls for that. You can do other things for that. And it's like, you know, that all kind of comes to the picture. But the email has its fucking place. If you got a bunch of people coming over, light them up, because it's like, yo, I'm not going to sit here and fucking.
I'm not trying to argue anybody, but like, I mean, we take all that into consideration. Like this cap is rifled, so when you pull the air through, it's spinning. It's designed to spin. I mean, we did all kinds of airflow simulations and stuff when we designed this nail. So, you know, I don't know, like I think it's cool, you know. Fuck, I just want to.
They work.
You know, I'm not trying to rock the boat. Shit.
Oh no, they work, man. You're
definitely not rocking the boat. Like I said, it's an Instagram fuckboy thing. If you posted, you know, it's just someone would jump on that shit he's fucking puffing off a titanium nail. Fuck him. Oh, okay, well, fuck you too. I'm getting high. They'd also fucking bitch at you if your hash was too dark. So don't take it with a grain of salt, dude. Like it's whatever you're puffing out of is perfect. And if you want to travel in a different direction, listen, everyone in this room, I would almost guarantee, has puffed off of a titanium nail. And in fact, I have puffed off many a fucking stainless steel knives, hot knifing, you know, probably even alloys and Coke cans and all this other bullshit. So
I'll say
it is what it is.
Dry sift on a screen on a D nail titanium nail, like back in the day, doing that screen tech.
Yeah,
that was the best hits back in the day.
That allows a lot of flavor and taste to release. Yeah, no, it is good. I mean, it's the hardest part about D nails, and I think what kicked their ass or the electric nails, that you couldn't really bring them in the car unless you had something correct for that. And like, you know, but everything has its fucking purpose. I mean, if I show up somewhere and all they have is X, we're using X. You know what I mean? It's a fucking that's doesn't matter at all at that point. It's like, let's go. That's what's great about hash too, is that you can do it so many different ways. But no, shout out to I mean, just remember when we were torching and then the D nails came out, the electric nails came out, how fucking much that changed the game. Like how, you know, when you went to a sesh, now it was like, we're all getting fucking lit in 10 minutes, you know. It's like that changed the fucking game. So it definitely still has its home, it has its place. And I think, you know, the internet, everyone's at different levels.
Yeah, well, that was all Sam. Before Jeremichael, before any of that, it was Sam that turned me onto those screens. In fact, how I met Sam was someone told me that he used a new screen for every single bowl that he puffed out of. So he'd like soak these screens and get the coating off of them. And then he had a big bag of brand new screens, like 1,000 of them. And he'd just walk around and you could, the first time I went to the PAX party house, I saw screens and matches like on the floor. Like if he stood anywhere, even for like 5 minutes, there'd be like 50 matches and like 10 or 15 screens. And so I was like, and in fact, I remember picking one up and realizing he's not even finishing these. The hash is melted into the screen. And I was just like, this is not how I'm going to try his hash for the first time. So I threw it back down, but I definitely saw people picking those up and hitting them and being like, that was the best hash that I hit in Amsterdam was the screens that I picked up at the PAX party house. Think of how fucking mental that is, dude. Yeah. So I found him on the 3rd floor with his fucking Birkenstock sandals on, which was another look for the guy in the Birkenstock sandals. And that's kind of, sort of met him and walked over. He was very, standoffish, and it took a little while. It wasn't until he found out that I used his saying, if it don't bubble, it ain't worth the trouble, for the bubble bag company, that he reached out to me and was like, do you know who I am? And that's really how we ended up linking up. But thank God, because without Sam and his hash and all that, like many, many decades of work that he did, we would not be having a Legends of Hash in Los Angeles here in the next month. So we can thank Sam for that too.
So true. Yeah. No, he is. Yeah, we needed to talk about actually reaching out to him and getting him to say hello to us during the event if we could.
It'd be awesome.
That would be great. I mean, I don't know if we'll get to see him. We'll probably get to see Dr. Seuss, but
yeah, no one gets to see him. He's elusive.
Very elusive, very very secretive man. No, it's definitely I really can't wait to see what's entered this year, because I've kind of started to get a bit of an understanding. If you guys don't know, we have a blockchain that we're going to be using for the judging, so that everything's on there. And it allows us to have ability to see all the judging in real time, but then to be able to publish everything afterward in case anyone tries to say somebody bought a win. And in fact, it makes it impossible to do that. So anyhow, that whole system is there. It's all put together, and we need to understand like what some of the strain names are, because they're putting together the program that's gonna be able to allow us to do this. So some guys have been sending us some information on what their entries might be and what they're doing. And this is definitely going to be a fucking wild. Kev, how many entries is it? It's
62,
60,
I think.
62 or 63. Yeah.
Somewhere in that vicinity. Let's say just north of 60.
Yeah. And in order to land the plane, like touch down and be able to get everything moving forward, we really have to have 41 makers instead of 40, because if somebody backs out, or you have to have a couple more makers just in case, because things always happen. So this year it was at 41 makers. Last year, I think we had 24 makers. So you never know really where that number is going to fall, either right below or just above. But this year we were able to, because of the contingency and how it went through, we have 41 makers. So I think we'll be posting an update of the new list on Monday. That'll show, all corrections and who all the makers are. So, but what that means is that, now you have what Marcus was talking about. You have Legends. You're able to have a lot of hash there. From different types of hash there, because you have so many makers. So it should be a pretty crazy list this year. And I know that it's going to feel overwhelming, of course, at first. There's no other way, because it is really just the mass consumption, everybody consuming at the same time, everybody enjoying. And it's not just everybody like, hey, for the next hour, you guys can buy tickets. These are all 250 selected people from our industry, from the hash industry, from the glass industry, that are, very, very, very into hash and about the culture and want to be there. So that's kind of one of the cool things too, is that it's all selected people that are there. You'll see old friends, you'll see new friends. And the idea of having makers from the East Coast be able to sit down with makers from the West Coast. And I know there's other events that do this, I mean, obviously, but to have it in this environment, in this setting, and have it be a part of this event, the best people, the best hash, and all the best, company. So it's, it should be, great food, everything like that. That's kind of, we wanted to go overboard on every little bit, from the gift bags to the sponsors, to the venue, to everything that's there. We want people to just be like, oh shit. Okay. We run a lower risk of having a blowout with the wrong kind of people together, or, you know, taking a chance on like, oh, this guy is going to have an issue or something else. Like, we've really gone through and made sure that it's a great mix of people coming together, people that have known each other for a long time. And, you know, and then there's some young companies, there's some new companies, some new guys, because you always got to be able to give respect to somebody who's doing it and just elevated themselves because their stuff's so good. Or, you know, there's some of those guys in there. So, you know, I catch these complaints from people being like, oh, I should be on that list. There's 40 dudes on that list that I'm better than. And it's like, yeah, but maybe just this wasn't your year to be a guy of that level coming into it. And, you know, we have to cap it at something, and, you know, let's give everyone the respect. But, you know, there's always people who, instead of, you know, the anger that comes from not being involved comes out, and, you know, it's, you know, it just is what it is. But there's a lot less of that than there is people just hitting us up and being super stoked, and, you know, everyone fucking fired up for this thing. So.
About the glass, Addy?
Oh man. I mean, you know, the whole, I mean, what's great is that you do have Mothership bringing, you know, the heat always. I mean, Scott's always got something crazy up his sleeve, but we got lucky enough where this is the Jeezy One drop, the Hareem drop. So it's, you know, very hash specific, art specific, and culturally specific. So it's kind of cool to have that at Legends and to have them be willing to put that there. But then, you know, JP's coming. I know he's bringing some great glass. I know there's a you know, Task is sending stuff out from Highly Educated. There's, you know, Dom is going to come and do a cap drop. And his stuff is just always, you know, so solventless, perfect, specific, great stuff. He'll have like slurper sets and different stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of glass. And then just people with glass on the table. I think there's going to be quite a bit of heaters, you know, because of who's invited and what they have for a collection. And, you know, so, yeah, but I think tomorrow we get to see some of the first sneak peeks of the Jeezy One drop. So we'll have a little better understanding of some of that stuff. And then we've been trying to look at the sponsor list and give Scott ideas and give those guys ideas of like any way we can lend to, you know, what we know that crowd's going to be really into, so that we have a lot of great stuff there that way. But then there's also, you know, the art component, you know, having Lot there and, you know, Mike be there and have him be able to you know, share, you know, his whole take on the culture and deliver what he does. That's kind of a cool ass fucking thing. So there'll be some surprises that pop up for everybody to enjoy there, that kind of come from Mike and come from Lot Comedy. What's up, Mace?
Yo, it's Craig.
What's up, buddy? Good to have you.
So we're also going to have a seed breeders lounge where we'll have 4 seed breeders who work specifically making genetics for hash production, and they'll have a lounge with the 4 breeders, and Masonic's going to be one of those.
Yep, Little Lake Valley Seed. Yep, Little Lake Valley and Ross Kaya with Pacific Northwest Roots. They'll have some of their genetic stuff.
And Rare Earth.
We also, Rare Earth Genomics out of Texas, which is a really cool story and a cool ass group of cats. So. Yeah, they'll have their own lounge, which is kind of cool. So I know these guys all dab super hard. So we wanted to give them an area where people could come in and sit down and kind of hang out with the breeders and check out their gear, and be able to kind of swap stuff too. So Hashtag will have a unit there, which would be pretty dope. Right, Alex? I think there's a
we'll have an A series 50A there. That's been our best selling unit. Kind of bridges the gap between craft producers and large scale license production. Excited to show that off to the boys.
Talk about the unit, Alex. What is it? Does it tip or is it stationary?
No, this is the tabletop version. Yeah. You know, this show we're real excited about sponsoring. Kelly and I, my partner who we started the company with, we're both going to be down there. And just like with Jameson's lead melting of the heads, you know, what we really want to get out of Legends is talking to hash makers and you know, seeing that list of hash makers that were there that are coming this year. It's very impressive and prestigious, and that's how we're going to make our equipment better, is getting feedback from hash makers. And that's really what we look forward to for Legends.
I really agree with that. That's something that was pretty important to us about being a part of Legends as a sponsor, was getting feedback. We do a lot on the cultivation side, and we work with a lot of large scale facilities and stuff. And as of late, we're starting to see a lot of focus on like temperature control and stuff in the room while the wash process is going on. When, you know, we were with somebody on the West Coast, and they were saying that they wanted different temperatures and humidities during different stages of the process. You know, when they're first bringing in product, when they're, you know, screening it, different, you know, things, whatever. They wanted advanced environmental stuff. So for us as equipment manufacturers, as controls manufacturers, that's really important feedback to get. And the hash community is, you know, usually the most demanding customers. That's why I think there's so much innovation, there's so much hardware, there's so many odds and ends and things to consume hash with, is because hash makers are just and hash users are just very demanding. So that type of feedback is really valuable, and those type of producers that can provide that type of feedback is really valuable.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's one thing I never really thought about is you know, if you do have savvy sponsors that are taking, you know, they take the event seriously, and they go there with these, you know, with different, you know, objectives, what some of those objectives are, because it is, you know, you do have an opportunity to be in the room with that many people at that level and get that feedback. And I think it's probably the same for the breeders, you know, to be there in the room with that many makers and kind of have, you know, and that's like, you know, it tells me that we're doing it correctly, because now we are kind of curating that room in the right way, you know, to make it add value to the sponsors, but then add as much value as possible to the makers, because now they're getting heard by the you know, the guys that are making different products and putting things out there for them. So, and then sometimes you see those guys themselves kind of turn into that. Like if you look at Simply Adam with his dial, the resin dial, that new unit that he put together for test washing and kind of checking material. But no, it's always cool to see the industry moving forward and just see it kind of, you know, like Legends is you know, going to be, to me, just a party, man. It's like get to be in the room with all these people, all these friends and all these different guys, and then get to eat great food, and then the fucking hash alone. So, you know, it's to simplify all of it. It's a party, you know, it's really just a time to get together and put all that bullshit down and just fucking have fun, you know, because the FOMO is really going to come from not being able to be in that party. And like, you know, Marcus said, when they walked around and they gave out those lanyards, you know, the laminates, it was really hard to get one of those things. You had to have great hash, and you had to kind of run into them. And that's still to this day, like Legends is, it's a tough ticket to get. Like Kevin and I are sitting there with like a great Rolodex of people that we know because we've been in the industry a long time, but then they come out of the woodwork when Legends comes, because everyone wants to be in that room and be at that party. And that's what's, you know, we take it seriously, like to throw the best fucking party. And now we get to make it 2 days because we listened to the makers, you know, we listened to the feedback. It was a little dark in there. I didn't get to have my phone. I felt a little rushed. You know, there was no judging. So who really won? And you know, all those things. And we had the opportunity to change that stuff to actually make it evolve. But then how do you do it? You know, you need the help of sponsors. You need the help of companies to come forward and say, hey, I want to get the value out of being in that room to get to talk to this curated list of people and help push things forward. But, you know, we're willing to exchange, you know, value for us that we can then use and turn into this event. And we really try not to spare any expense. Like we try to, you know, just the judge kit boxes alone that you'll get as a judge, you know, for the makers that they'll get, that box alone is a piece of art. You know, it's a really cool piece of art that a ton of energy and effort went into creating at a cost, you know. So we try to create all these things, and it's, you know, Marcus and those guys never monetized and never did anything. And we have the website now, we have the e-commerce component, And that's the idea, is to create, something that allows people to hold a piece of that culture and to look more into it and figure more about it and make it a part of like them and Hash and build that community stronger, like put people together. It's not about like, if you don't get into Legends this year, it doesn't mean you're not getting into Legends. It's like, we're just getting off the ground, and we're trying to get it so that we can do maybe 2 events a year in different places. We always want to do it in LA. We feel like that's kind of the epicenter of, putting on things like that and making things like that. A lot of people want to go there. It's easy to go there. So we're grateful for that component, but, as we get it moving forward, we don't want to make it, me and Marcus agree. It's like, Kevin says the same thing. We don't want to make it where there's too much Legends, and that's what the website's for. So that, when it's not a Legends event, you can go get a piece of merch or something from it and then be able to represent and have it, be that rare product or something. It's like, there is marketing involved in everything that we do. It's sad that like, the heady boy culture sometimes doesn't want you to monetize something. But it's like, that's how things are innovated, because people make money and they can make things better. And as long as the people are ethically correct and they're doing the right thing, yeah, the sky's the fucking limit, man. You can really push a lot of things and, make a lot more happen. But it's really just about a fucking party, And that's what I'm like super stoked. As we get closer to it, I get more excited about that part. There's a lot of work, Kevin. I think we got 11,000 jars from Calyx, and we had to cap and build kits for 11,000 jars to go out to, 61 or 63 kits going out to these makers, so that they're able to bring a uniform offering, so that we're able to then put it out with standardized delivery to every person that's there. And there's a ton of problems that we had to solve behind the scenes to make all of this stuff deliverable to the culture and to put out there, an open hash bar and all these different things. And then using our friends, that helped design the blockchain and all those things to bring that into it. We had a call with Mothership the other day about the NFTs that Mothership are going to drop at the event. And what's relevant about that is that every ticket is an NFT. So you'll have a wallet, you'll be able to, make the agreement and get an NFT and start that kind of part of your, of your resume or whatever the fuck you call it, like have that in your arsenal. But that's kind of where things are going. And that NFT will allow you to, go to any one of the Mothership parties and be a judge for the hash competition and do these different things. And like, Sam and those guys that Focus, they also have an NFT program for, just for the people that are using the Carta. And like, it's a part of, it's the best way to understand it is that Web3 is just a part of the next level of marketing directly to the consumer that you're trying to market to, that you have more information about, that's part of a community. And it ultimately makes it a lot more easier. Like Mace is fucking Jesus Christ on this stuff, dude, when it comes to Discord and marketing. But what it is it's marketing to, a younger crowd, a more technically savvy crowd that knows how to use these things and wants to use them. And you if you don't adjust and have that in your arsenal. But the point is, this year we do have the NFT component, and some of the stuff Mothership's bringing with Jeezy is just going to be ridiculous. So if people are into NFTs and they're coming, have your wallet and all your stuff ready, have some dough in there and those things like that. But it's not going to limit people, but it is kind of opening the door to that stuff, which is also kind of fucking cool. I mean, it's kind of like a whole different approach, but it allows the judging, it allows the ticketing, it allows us to know who's going to be in the building before they get there, and and like monitor everything. But that kind of blows my mind that like this is now a part of it. A year ago I didn't know anything, and now to see how we can integrate it and how it works and what it can do, and it's kind of fucking cool actually. It's I mean, I don't know how much you guys
is everybody's ticket a NFT?
Yeah, everybody's ticket is an NFT. So we're going to create a Kepler wallet. We have all the Kepler wallets created. We're going to send them out to everybody, airdrop their ticket to them. And then there's also an app that our partners at Glassflow has built. And so that app is where the judging portal is going to be. There's going to be event information. Your ticket is going to be represented there, the NFT. Yeah.
Crypto curious.
So yeah, no, we're going to be it's about transparency, right? So the judging is fully transparent. It's going to be really cool. So and if it sounds daunting or like some future shit or like whatever, don't worry. Like we're setting everything upward, so it's just very easy for everybody. And you're all going to get an email going to tell you exactly how to, access the app. We've built an app for this legitimately. We've put it on a blockchain. We've done all of this to have a level of transparency that you just don't get at events ever. So yeah, we're really excited.
And we were able to do it
like
because
almost
of you
ready
guys.
to talk there, brother.
Well, we were able to do it because of you sponsors. Like that's the other thing. We wouldn't be able to create that stuff and have that stuff and incorporate that team without having sponsors and like the bigger picture of what we put together. It really is possible because of you guys. So we're super grateful. That is pretty cool. Mace, what do you got planned, buddy? You got some drops or anything, or what are you doing?
Oh man, I just want to go smoke hash and kick it with the homies. You already know. I got beans on me every day, but that's the grand scheme of Legends is to go party. You said,
Yep, definitely. Well, yeah, no, I wasn't sure if you had any drops or anything close to that time.
Oh, I could sell some shit, but I want to go party. Fucking, I got some stuff. I always got I'll probably bring in the Wilson Fem S1 line with me, like straight Wilson Fem. I haven't dropped those yet. I might dig in the vault, break out some the Sour Diesels that won a couple cups here and there, and break out some award-winning genetics, like straight up genetics that have either been nominated to win an award, or placed or can be showcased better. I'm just gonna bring out the heat to the hash
Good
makers
idea.
out there.
I wouldn't expect anything less, my friend. We give you guys a nice lounge area too, so you'd be able to dab and kind of sit and chill with people as well. So
with it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, the food will be nuts. It's the brunch is a prime rib brunch, so they'll be cutting prime rib there. There's
Gnarly.
a coffee cart with all the tasty coffee, everything, pastries, and you just sesh and eat and fucking have fun. So yeah, try to get every little amenity, little bit that you can have in. So
no doubt, coffee's a must. Hella hash.
Oh, espresso and hash. Come on now. There's no fucking. Those two go hand in hand right there.
Yeah.
I feel like an adult.
There may not be Legends of Hashish branded coffee lattes.
Yeah, that would be pretty rad. There's some cool shit they can do with those now too. So, but yeah, I need to take a dab. So,
I just took a huge dab right now. I don't know if you're seeing, but it was really big.
Dude,
It was milky.
I'm super stoked. I'm gonna be in there mixing it up with all these guys, smoking all the hash, but also overseeing all the cameras. So Addison, Kev, and Marcus, who's an incredible photographer, have brought in 3 camera videographers to shoot the event. So it's going to be really cool to be a part of documenting something that was not allowed to be documented for so long. So I'm super stoked about that. I'm incredibly excited about all the flavors. I know a lot of these makers are working really hard on either securing or finding that last minute perfect entry, and I'm just incredibly stoked for it, and to be able to like see what happens once we put this out to the public more, because this has been so behind the scenes for so long. It's almost been lore, and now to kind of showcase it, document it, and put it out, and just really excited to see what happens.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked on seeing some of that footage for sure. We'll get that out here on Bubble Man's World, and it's going to be a pretty special event for sure. It's been too long for myself.
We think that if we're going to represent the culture, we need to represent the culture all the way, and we need to. And the best way to do that is to get that footage out and put it in a way that's palatable and catches people's attention and lets them understand like the true prestige of the Legends of Hashish and what it is. And we want to build that FOMO. We want everybody to be like, holy fuck, I want to go to that party. Like I want to provide things. I want us to provide things for people that, like, when I was a kid and I was reading in High Times going, fuck, I want to go to that. Like, we could do that. And I think that we're doing that.
Oh yeah. We're definitely aiding and abetting in the consumption of quite a bit of fucking hash. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
That's a good foundation right there. No matter what, as long as that's the foundation, it can't collapse. Can't go wrong.
No.
People's desires are what makes the world spin, and the desire to smoke and enjoy hash is well, look how fucking far we've taken it. Like, it's ridiculous. We're fucking measuring our bangers with thermometers, and we're, you know, all of our bangers are specifically made by
Slurp
people
and
that
terps.
slurp and terps and fucking banger basketing and all this. It's really quite incredible. And I get that it's not for everyone. I get that we're a small group of people. But it's kind of why I also look forward to one day someone designing the perfect micro dab unit, because we need to turn people on to how great this is, but not with monster dabs, not even with a normal size dab, not even with a small dab.
I almost killed somebody. Marcus.
Yeah, of course, dude.
Marcus saved them.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. It's what, I'll be honest, for a long time, and it sort of speaks to our culture of these, you know, heady boys, as Addison put it. You know, the roots of that were, let's destroy him, ha ha ha, and I can take the biggest dab. It really was like this really testosterone driven, like, I can take a bigger dab than you and I'm gonna destroy you. And I knocked countless people out, I'll be honest. When Full Mouth Bubble showed up,
I want to play devil's advocate to that, because it was like, for me, I lose sight of reality and what is a non-consumer's acceptable dose. And I'm just a generous sharing person. So like, we were in British Columbia together at an event, and this really nice elderly lady was sitting with us, me and Marcus, and we were just dabbing. And this elderly lady was so nice, and she's asking all these questions and talking. She asked me, she's like, can I have a dab? And I was like, absolutely, you can have a dab. Like, and so like,
slurper.
I go to scoop like my dab, and I'm like, no, half that, James, come on. And so I go to half. I'm like, talking this lady, and Marcus looks over at me, and he's like, dude, is that for her? And I'm like, yeah, man, she's a delightful lady. She's just looking at, and he's like, no. And he went and served her up one of these micro dabs, which was like what's left on my dab when I'm done dabbing.
Less.
And she was like, she loved it. She had such a great time. She asked him for another one. And I immediately realized, I was like, oh, that would have played out completely differently if Marcus were not to have intervened. So
all heroes don't wear capes.
I'm not,
okay.
Yeah.
I've seen it too many times, I'll be honest. And I did it too many times, I'll be honest too. Like, I just thought it was great too. Because when you get humbled and you're a hardcore smoker, you want to go share that with other hardcore smokers. So you're out there looking to humble people. This was also 20 years ago. I haven't been, doing this for more than 10 plus years. I'm more interested in gently letting people come into what we find is special about cannabis and these extracts, and bringing them in nice and gently and being like, listen, this can really get you as high as you want. What I'd rather do is give you the tiniest little bit, take away the fear, give you the taste, give you a bit of a buzz. And if that's nice, you can always take more, but you can never untake any. So if you take a big half Jameson dab, you can't untake it. You're going to be like uncomfortably high for probably at least an hour. And I don't want to babysit people and I also don't want to knock people unconscious anymore. I hated it. Watching people hit the ground, thwomp.
Well, it's not for everybody,
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Not everybody who goes to the rodeo wants to ride the fucking bull. It's like,
but I think it could be if you sedate the bull and put them up there and go just take them for a short walk. They'll be like, that was actually really nice. Pet him, pet
look
the
at
bull.
His balls. You're like,
that's it.
Bull. Why are you fucking getting on there?
That's it, man. I'm telling you, because it doesn't have to be a rocket ship to the moon. It can literally be like a couple of puffs off a joint.
But I also enjoy the pleasure of ninja dabbing the fuck out of somebody with a giant dab
Listen,
that can
of
handle
course.
it.
Of
That can, like
course.
Jameson. Like I never see anyone ninja dab Jameson, and he's a fucking Sasquatch.
Because there's
you know,
no need
turf
to
squatch
ninja
and
dab.
furnace.
He's ninja dabbing himself.
Good point. But no, that's and I wish there was more ninja dabbing. You know, that's what I hope Legends is, like a rebirth of ninja dabbing.
Let's bring back
where
ninja
people are
dabbing.
just, I think we totally should. I think there's a good
Wow.
reason
I
for it.
like it.
It's just
You know?
giving your friend
It's
more
some
than they
special-
asked for. That's all.
You need to
That's different. That's good. I support that. Giving regular people, like just like random people off the street, like, oh, what is it you're doing over there, young man? That looks interesting. That's requires a micro dab. I want them to leave feeling super good and having a good experience and being like, I'm going to look into this dabbing thing. That was quite pleasant.
Smells good.
Yeah. Not to mention, if you could get high off a micro dab, can you imagine like that grams lasting Jameson like 7 minutes? It's lasting this woman like 42 days.
Yeah, a month and
I think
3 weeks.
I think we should get some special ninja dabbers for Legends made, like that are given out during the shenanigans. Like, you know, those really long dabbers. Like I've a couple of sessions, some guys show up with them where it's just so easy. You could just like ninja dab a guy from afar.
Dude, I always go ahead.
I'm going to make sure now that I pick a few volunteers that are just there to ninja dab people. That'll be their job. Is to just be in the crowd and just fucking, oh, you're taking a dab? Well, here's another one. And that'll be, you know, a thing. And that's kind of it's almost like it's in the spirit of Sam, because, you know, Sam was like preloading CBD and then fucking going out and dabbing with everyone. And like, you know, there's stories about Sam, about him and his like, you know, understanding of like an endocannabinoid system and saturating his system with CBD and then going and fucking like dabbing all these people out and actually being able to like use the CBD as a barrier for the endocannabinoid or the receptor so that he didn't get as loaded as everybody else. And like, you know, this is in the spirit of that. I think Sam would be proud of us. We got to mention that. Like a prankster kind of a thing is like the ninja dab.
Like a Jingles.
Yeah, because you could be like, I'm just busting balls, bro, with the fucking 60 milligrams. That's all I'm doing here.
It's the original
just
blend.
busting your balls.
I'll tell you, the ultimate dabs, though. I mean, these take it away. But when you had this kind of carb cap, that is, oh, you just load it up. It's like, all right, here you go. Hey, this is just never ending. What the fuck?
Well, you know what? I'm going to just load the cap. I'm going to load the tip of the cap and be like, oh,
Yeah.
I got you, dog. And then that's how we'll do it.
I got your cap,
Totally.
bro.
We got to bring it back, man. And what I also forget too, is when you ninja dab someone, as you cap it, you can gently hug them and just bring them in close for like the hug ninja dab.
It's true. They are paralyzed. They're paralyzed at that moment.
Well, you're hugging them with turf.
Yeah, you hug them all around, inside out. It's a gentle hug of terps for their entire body and the whole experience. Watch, Legends is going to be a bunch of dudes hugging each other in a fucking weird room. Like this is not heading in the right direction. We need to turn
The
this back
wonders of
around.
hash.
Yeah. And
We need to spin this back around.
did you mention the connection with Fidel and the food and that going down?
Oh, the levity stuff. Yeah, we ended up we grew too large for Carousel because they can't cater an event of the size that we need, the way that we need it catered, because we have to have catering service. So we had to, you know, find a restaurant that could do that is just as, you know, well loved and respected, and then luckily there is one in Long Beach. So we have those guys. Kev, what's the name of the restaurant, Long Beach?
It's called Open Sesame in Long Beach. Their food is incredible. And the spread is going to be nuts for dinner the first night. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, just to put it into perspective, we're spending about the same amount on the food this year that we did on our entire budget last year. That's a reality. So we're stepping it up in every way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for the dabbers, for me and everybody that I know who really dabs, you're gonna have fresh fruit at everywhere, which for me is like
All the
that's what
time.
I need. A hot dab, like you get fresh fruit, and I'm a happy boy. So like I think that's huge. I love that.
There's a station both days the entire time that has tea, water, fresh fruit, and honey, so that you can go up and get that all the time during the entire event.
And
which
if
is
that's
like the
roots.
oasis.
the honey
That's
hat,
roots, and that's the oasis to, like, you know, you took too big of a dab, go up there, get a scoop of honey, get some water, do a Tebow on the ground there for a second, fucking get back into it, you know, put yourself back in. So
that's amazing.
but yeah, it's cool because we also have, you know, we looked at like the High Times origins of everything and how High Times was and the way High Times events were set up and how everyone kind of got together and how the sponsors were involved. So we wanted to kind of throw back to that in a way. And we do have an outdoor area that will have the sponsorship booths with all the vendors out there. And it's kind of a throwback to like that High Times experience that you could have. But then when you come inside, it has the sit down, you know, like the restaurant kind of feel. So we try to create that and sort of incorporate that into it. And then the whole entire design is all Middle Eastern. So like, you know, like fucking pillows and carpets on the floor with pillows and sitting areas and, you know, easy, comfortable shit for, you know, for taking dabs and chilling. So
What we need.
yeah. And then there's, you know, the sponsors come through too with a ton of stuff that'll be on the table. So there's like Apex Ancillary with, you know, there's Q-tip stations, there's dunking stations from Banger Basket. There's, I mean, just a ton of different stuff that's there. You know, Sam and those guys are providing Mystic Timbers, you know, Sam and those guys are providing torches and, you know, other tools and other equipment that we have and, you know, things that we can use for, fusion, you know, so we have a bunch of stuff that's there that makes it work. All you really need is your rig, your personal items.
Sam and his team
your
are putting
lungs.
for everybody. It's going to be for all the judges anyway. It's going to be nutty.
Yeah, those would be crazy.
You know, so we have a lot of products. We have about 25 or so other product sponsors. I wish we could have had like, you know, 40 people that we did this. Might have been a little much, but you know, these guys have stepped up and some of them are making like custom Legends of Hashish stuff for us. That's really awesome. And really our gift bags are valued probably at the same price, if not more than like everybody's ticket costs. Like we're throwing so much value at people who are going to be there. It's going to be stupid. And, you know, it's because of the product sponsors. It's because of all of you here and every other sponsor that came in and did a 120U, 90U, 73U, or stepped up and came in. Like without all you guys, like we really couldn't throw this kind of value at everybody, because we want it to be a great marketing platform, and I think that this is a great way to do that, and I think we're succeeding, you know, very well.
The other thing too, you know, what I always loved about Legends is that there was no trophy, there's no award. You had to, like, you know, you could tell your stories and say you won Legends, but then Marcus and Sam had to kind of confirm that, and it's still in that same place, you know, where, you know, there's we don't want to have like a trophy that sits in a room somewhere that's like, oh, I won Legends, you know, second place 2023. You know, it just makes much more sense to give the sponsors the opportunity to put products in those winners' hands that they can use every day, that kind of make the experience better, that kind of brings the community closer together. And that was kind of the idea. So that's what we did this year. Mothership's going to be making an award, first, second, and third for each category, for all three categories. And I think there will be some dry sift that's being entered, because we added the dry sift category for Sam because we thought it would be kind of a cool throwback to that. So yeah, I'm excited.
Dude, trust me,
Dry
that's
sift
the
is
holy
good.
grail.
So good. Oh, Marcus froze.
That's weird.
Marcus went cold room.
Oh, he's
I
back.
did, yeah. I froze. I stopped talking the minute I freeze, but you wouldn't know that anyway because I was frozen. I don't know what I was saying.
You saying the dry sift is the holy grail?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's listen, anytime you're hanging out with hardcore puffers, they'll all have rosin. A smaller percentage of them will have full melt bubble, and almost none of them will have full melt dry sift. And it's just how it goes. So, I'd love to see that category grow. Enter your rosin and do well, and maybe even, win a placing, but then try to bring in full melt bubble next time, and then try to bring in full melt dry sift. Because to me, that's like, bringing in rosin is the easiest thing. Bringing in full melt bubble is the next hardest thing. Bringing in full melt dry sift is like, holy shit. That's another reality completely. There's something to be said for it. It's very different than, the highest grade full melt bubble is on par with the highest grade full melt dry sift. They're both spectacular.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of people that have never tried dry sift. I think because dry sift is 6-star. That's it.
Rare.
It's
hard.
Very rare. That's like
yeah, only the greatest. This is the thing. Only the greatest material will actually work and turn out the way you want it to work out. So it's kind of like there's this word of God going on. Whereas with oil products, whether it's a BHO or a rosin, if you're making it into rosin, listen, we all know what great rosin is. We know what that is, but there's a lot of people who are deceived by what they think great rosin is by just making it look, if it can kind of trick them with the way it looks, they'll be like, oh, this must be a great rosin. It's not that easy, to take and make great hash and then press it into rosin. That's hardcore. Most people are pressing their hash into rosin because it doesn't melt and it can't be dabbed. So it's kind of like a lot of hash rosin is from mediocre hash. Not saying your guys's is, but I'm just saying out in the world there, a lot of people are taking hash. They're taking hash that can't be, and then there's the hardcore few that are just like taking the most ridiculous quality hash and pressing that, which I'm on the fence with that. I'm like, well, if it was 6-star bubble, I don't know if I would press it. It's gonna dab just as nice. It's already in form, in heads, like protected. And there is something to be said for the laboratory where everything's going down, where all of the cannabinoids and volatile organic compounds, like filtering that out is different than not filtering it out. I like the mop-up trip that hash offers. And I do see oil as different myself. I see rosin as a hash oil, but not a hash itself. Just because the heads have been melted and it seems like it's oil now, it's always going to melt. Whereas only the highest qualities of hashes, dry sifted or wet washed, will melt. Boom. Is that a melty Darth Vader? Oh yeah, he says on mute. JP's 27 dabs in. He's thinking, I'm probably going to have to hit another dab here soon.
I wasn't counting.
Is somebody counting JP's dabs?
No, I was just joking around, but I suspect it's a lot. Are we all showing what we're dabbing right now?
He's at like 9 or 10 dabs so far, I think. Is what I've got.
Damn. Ooh.
Could be in the high 8s.
Like 20, yeah.
The high 8s.
Well, yeah. We'll
Dirty.
We'll start counting now. We weren't counting. We'll start counting.
Ooh wee, little 90U pressed into rosin. I like that too.
Oh, that was
the legal Canadian market makes it very hard to sell a 90 micron into market. It's you have to see away every grade that you keep separate. So it's like adds $1,000, which shrinks your margin drastically.
In Canada?
In Canada, yeah. And then also
you have
the
to
big
test
one,
every micron separately.
if you want to keep them separate. So I've done it. It's like it can be like $8,000 just for the COA for that batch. So you have to do big batches. If you're also only releasing 90 micron, well, that's another like you're going to have to basically, what are you going to do with the other grades? Like if you put too many SKUs on the market, 90, 120, like you might find the 90 sells really well, but the other ones are like, oh, these ones aren't selling quite as well. Oh yeah, that looks nice. So they make it hard here in Canada.
Also, the lot size. I mean,
the lot size, and Ontario used to be the worst because if they ordered like 5 kilos and then they sold it really fast and wanted another 5 kilos, you had to have it or you would be punished and put down lower on their ordering order the next time they ordered product. And so imagine, like, that's a whole province. So, and that's 10 kilos. Imagine just making 10 kilos of just 90 micron live hash rosin. Like if you're making just 10 kilos of that, you have quite a bit of the other material and it's also because of the tax, the higher price you put on it, the more ridiculous the tax will be on it. So it ends up, there's a few things that work against us up here, but we're doing the best we can with what we've got.
How much diversion is in the Canadian market?
What's that?
How much diversion?
Like in the black market? Well, that all comes from statistics. So it's like there's this alcohol and tobacco board they get information from. There's like they do their own questions, with people throughout the countries. But it's all kind of like, in my opinion, the people who would know the real numbers, they're not talking to. So it's all really just bullshit. All of what they say. I mean, the black market is for sure alive and well. Less so for flour. My friends that were just growing and making money, they find it very hard to make money now because it's maybe expensive or whatnot, but it's like if you can go to the store and like pick out between like 30 or 40 flavors, and then when you buy it, have it be the flavor that you wanted it to be. I mean, sure, there's shitty brands that sell milled, dried, pre-rolled joints or whatever that are shitty, but there's also, you could navigate it if you needed to. It wouldn't take you long, Addison, to find some decent product where you were like, yeah, I found my dabs. These pre-rolled joints are actually pretty good. This bag of weed is there's products that are doing well. They're the same people from the legacy industry that have moved into the legal industry. And it's just pushing these very large companies slowly out of market share because their whole game was to suck and to short the entire industry. And if they can suck long enough and short the entire industry long enough, they just end up being the last guy standing and own a multi-billion-dollar industry. So I think that's what Canopy and Tilray and, some of these big companies are potentially doing. It's kind of unfortunate, but.
Yeah, I was wondering how much, if any, gets diverted from the traditional market into the black market.
I think it happens for sure. That's happening as well. Absolutely. 100%.
I don't think it's so much diversion. I think that just the black market like competes at a much higher level, like on the level of legal operators. I mean, there's black market facilities that are operating, on the same block in the same building, this, that, whatever, the way some of these places work down here in the US. So I'm not sure like that it's the licensed producers that are necessarily putting stuff out the back door. I think it's like the guy who's running next to him doesn't have a license and doesn't give a fuck, and the cops aren't going there anyways. So
they have a billion grams, over 1 billion grams just sitting in vaults, like thousands and thousands and thousands of kgs.
Remember Indiana Jones? Remember the end of Indiana Jones?
Which one?
They're pushing the crate through the warehouse.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's Canadian rec warehouse mids, and it is going out the back door. We are seeing it in the market. I'm here, it's happening. But to answer your question, Addison, what's interesting about like the dichotomy between Canada and the US markets is that in the US, it's the term diversion and sort of that concept is much more clearly defined and quantifiable, whereas in Canada, the market is still new. We're less than 5 years into this thing. It's happening. How everybody's doing it is a little bit different, but the mids market of the traditional market, it's specifically like Marcus said in flour, is just gone. And that's not because all those consumers are now going to recreational retail stores that are licensed. It's because these consumers are off-putting these batches that they have to write off for whatever reason and destructing them the same way it happens in California, but it's not as easily and openly discussed as it is in California yet.
Yeah. Well, maybe Canadians are just more private.
Yeah, we're more polite about it, so it'll happen more, but guys like Marcus coming in and really getting control and getting products out, guys who came up under Marcus, like Slurm and Brindle and all these guys, like, I mean, not coming up under, but in following in his footsteps. These guys are coming to market. Kind Selections is coming to market, like real people, real smokers. And that's what we didn't have in Canada that was always present in the US, because when the US legalized, it wasn't federal legalization. So you always had to have a little bit of an appetite for risk to be involved in cannabis. Whereas in Canada, it was like, the lights are on, there's no risk, come raise all the money and do all the things. And so there was no, the individual.
It's a high Chad factor.
It was a higher Chad factor here than in the US. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. No risk.
High Chad factor.
Yeah, that made a shiver go up my spine. I was like,
Yeah,
oof.
that is pretty interesting how legalization, went very different between US and Canada, and kind of lights on all at once, and fundraising all at once right away, really did make things different. You really did have a lot of shitty operators go there. You really did have a lot of fraudsters go there. You really did have a lot of scumbags go there. So to raise money, just to raise money, because the regulatory environment was different. So, here in the US, every state is different, and some of these MSOs, one of the things that they are good at is, they're able to take advantage of different regulatory patterns and things in individual markets and play things like that. Play the tax in Michigan against California, against Oregon, against Nevada, this, that, whatever. And it's a strategy that some of these brands rely on to survive. So I do think that the difference in the regulatory environment definitely changes what the end user is able to get. The end user in the United States is able to access way more different products and services and things like that than up in Canada, because there's way more people operating, there's way more licensure, there's way more guys making hash. So I think that is definitely part of it, and I think that is definitely something that the black market does a good job of. People that bring stuff in from Canada, I mean, that's how a lot of people in the US survived for a long time, was bringing shit in from Canada. So now there's a lot of high-end stuff that comes from here and goes back up there. So, I think the black market kind of bridges the gap, I think, for the culture. And I think that's why it's important to protect the black market and respect the black market, and remember that a lot of these people that have been here for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, etc., had to do it a lot differently. And again, for us, that's why an event like this was important to give back to, is because a lot of these people have been here for 20 years, and it was just a lot different back then. We've been making controls for 15 years, and the way that people grew at scale 15 years ago versus at scale today is way different. And just like the amount of risk people would assume back then and today. So to respect kind of the older crowd and the people that had to do it when there was way more risk is really important, because at the end of the day, our culture is at risk every single day. Every single day there's companies coming in, there's operators coming in, there's people starting up that aren't about the culture, don't respect the culture, don't care about the culture. So for us, that's a big thing. I love getting high. I love using cannabis. Cannabis is really important to me. Cannabis has done a lot for me. We were able to have a business that survived for coming on 16 years because guys are growing cannabis. So it's a big deal. And it does matter to me that there are people that operate in cannabis at any level that don't even get high. It does kind of bother me that there's people that operate stores or brands or companies or this, that, whatever, that are comfortable making money off of cannabis, but won't use cannabis or look down on using cannabis. So culture is very much on the line. The more that industry progresses, the more shit we create, the more things we monetize, the more money we think about trying to get out of it, the more we lose like our culture, whatever it is. So for us, that's why participating and being able to help empower you guys to do it how you want to do it and give back to the community that you guys know best was really important to us. So we love getting high, and that's really important to us, that that's able to still be a thing.
Yep. No, and that's those people that you were talking about, the Chads, the fuckheads, like they can't sponsor Legends, and they won't be at Legends, and they literally can't be in the room just based off the amount of culture and consumption and what's there, and it's all, that's why it's rad to have sponsors that are in line with that are down and understand that is a big part of the culture. There are people that are mega dose consumption people that just happen to fall into the hash world, and hey, if you want to talk actual fucking milligrams, like BHO typically has more milligrams, but I think because solventless is a little less harsh on people, you can consume a lot more of it and get even more milligrams. But that's a whole other story. But no, it's Legends is all about what Marcus and those guys created, and it's getting all the best people together and being able to like celebrate in this way, and now having it on a bigger scale, but still throwing back as much as possible to the old school stuff is kind of it's been one of the bigger challenges, because you do have to monetize it. You do have to figure it out and do it correctly, and then make it so that at the same time, while you're doing that and balancing that, you have to deal with the politics and the culture itself, and how all that stuff works. So I don't know, it's been good because at the same time you're so fucking busy with organizing this. I mean, last year there was 100 people, so that's manageable, right? That's like, oh, okay, you can kind of juggle that. But this year it's 250 people at max, and you're just kind of expanding that list and bringing in these other, figuring out the proper list of sponsors and everyone that's there. So it's still a juggle, but at the same time, it's
and pounds of hash.
Yeah, apparently, supposedly,
allegedly.
But yeah, I mean, private, that's what's great about that too, is that you still have the right to have a private dinner and a private get together in an event where people come together, all invite only. There's no open sale of anything, and it's a nice to still have that right to be able to do that, because that's kind of, you can't do it in a restaurant because obviously it would just cause an issue. But luckily, there are guys that have some spaces and that we work with that are capable of putting it on and helping us do it. So yeah, it should be a fucking blast for sure, man.
Well, it certainly won't be the last time we speak on it. That's for sure. I know that Addison's got to head out here soon at 11 o'clock. I also have to go off with my 8-year-old son today and go check him out skating. He's doing some skating lessons today. So that's going to be a highlight for me today, but I definitely want to thank everyone that showed up. I definitely appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll have to have you guys back on Hash Church another day for sure, when we're talking for a longer amount of time. JP, we definitely want to have you back and just like talk about, like, for an hour, go into the Terp Slurper and all of the, you're on mute, and all of that sort of information, because people love that, dude.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. Love to come back. Just let me know.
Absolutely. well, thank you all for coming out, and we'll have some more. We'll be talking about Legends right up until the day that it happens. It's about 3 weeks away now, so we've got 20 something days, and I guess continue on. Have a great day, everybody, and smoke much hash. May the full melt bless your bowl sooner than later if it hasn't already. And we'll talk really soon, everybody.
Peace, guys.
Thanks, Marcus.
Peace out.
Later, guys.
Here's everyone.